What's up, everyone? This is Isaac from Hunter Smash Fitness. Just wanted to do a video today about the overhead press, whether you should be doing it or whether you shouldn't. So I'm going to talk about just some of the pros and cons of it, break it down just a little bit for you, and let you know my personal opinion. All right, so before we get too in-depth into this, first off, I just wanted to say, I have a YouTube channel that I really want you to check out. So it's called My Block Strongest Man. I've been working with him a little bit. We're gonna try and do some collaborations, get some things going. But if you're interested in Strongman, he puts out lots of great content, and I'd highly recommend going and checking out his work. He does a much more analytical approach. He's much better with the spreadsheets and all that sort of stuff. I am not as good at all that, but just started his channel not too long ago. So go check it out. I'll put a link in the description below. So yeah, overhead press, should you be doing it? I've been seeing a lot of articles lately, a lot of videos saying that you shouldn't be overhead pressing because of, the structure of the shoulder joint and all this other stuff. Most of the articles that I've seen aren't really based on factual evidence. It's more based on circumstantial evidence. A lot of people say that, doing a lateral raise or an anterior raise would work just as well as an overhead press. The only downside with that is they're laterally or anteriorly focused. Yeah, they're going to work the deltoid. If you're doing a lateral raise out here, yeah, you're going to work that middle delt. But it's not going to be quite the same as if you're getting a full rack on the press and you're going to lock out. So it's a slightly different movement. The overhead press, because of its emphasis on the glenohumeral joint and the scapulothoracic joints and all that, working together, they work synergistically, and it focuses on the entire shoulder and the upper thoracic as well. So you're not only getting with the lateral raise, you're getting deltoid, it's true, but with the overhead press, because of the structure of everything, of the body, the shoulder joint, the scapula and everything, you need everything working together. So you need that foundation working as well. So the benefits of this is that it not only works the anterior chest, the front of the chest, but it also works the back, your upper back as well. And you're gonna get some core and everything else as well. It's a pretty great full body movement. But because of the structure of that, because of the emphasis that it puts on the upper back as well, it helps balance between the anterior front of your upper torso and the posterior, the back of your upper torso. So because of this, in my opinion, overhead press is also superior to bench press because it trains the shoulder as an entire unit instead of it focusing exclusively on the anterior portion. So with the bench press, you're gonna get some upper back work in there as well, and ideally you should be squeezing your upper back significantly when you're benching to build that base, build that foundation. But by its nature, it's going to be an anterior movement. The prime movers are going to be the pecs, the anterior delt, all that sort of stuff. So overhead press, you're going to be getting a lot of that as well, but you're also having to stabilize everything in the back, all your rhomboids and everything else. They're going to have to be working to move those scapula properly. Part of this, especially with our culture shifting and the number of people that are now just sitting at computers all day long, like me, I'm doing classes online. So I sit at a computer all day long. And you're seeing a lot more of this upper cross syndrome. So it's tight in the chest, tight in the head, and it's kind of this forward position here. So tight and weak and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, you can look it up. Just look up upper cross syndrome. It's becoming more and more common as people sit at computers more. One of the ways that you can work with this is, I've done a video as well with the Thompson bow tie that also works, but another way that you can work on that is doing more overhead pressing. Because of the movement, you're gonna have to open up and you're gonna have to move everything back to stabilize and move properly. So it's a great way that you can increase your postural control throughout your back, throughout your shoulders as well. I will say though, heavy overhead pressing should only be completed when you have proper thoracic mobility and control that can be maintained throughout the movement. Especially if you have scoliosis or anything like that, it needs to be approached a little bit more cautiously, just because you could have excessive weakness and excessive tightness in certain areas. And so if you're trying to force an overhead press in that manner, it may not be the safest movement for you at that time. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't work up to it becoming a safe movement. It just means that at that time, there could be better things that you could be doing. So with some of the studies, I looked up as many studies as I could find with this. And in some of the studies, specifically with women, core weakness tends to cause an excessive movement throughout the spine, especially the thoracic spine, which can increase the risk of injury. Well, especially to the rotator cuff, but just increase the risk of injury. Just because if the foundation isn't secure, if it's not solid, if it's not safe, then the movement can't be as stable as it should be. So if you think of a skyscraper, the first thing that you have to get set properly is the foundation. You have to make sure that that foundation is solid. It's not going to move at all. If you build it, well, if you look at the city of Seattle or something like that, and if they build it on a faulty foundation, here comes an earthquake or something along those lines, a mudslide, whatever, and everything's gone. So you want to be careful of that. Make sure that your foundation is strong and secure first. So you want to be doing, some core control, different things like that. You're going to be getting some of that already just by doing the exercise. A lot of people, especially if they're doing a heavier overhead press, they'll use the weightlifting belts and things like that to help give their core something to push against. And I've done another video about the belts as well. So keep that in mind as well. If that is something that you are weak with, you might want to look at other ways that you can strengthen it before attempting heavy overhead pressing. So then a lot of the time, if you have that core instability, it increases your risk of injury. A lot of the studies showed that just by increasing core stability, the overall movement increased dramatically, and the overall risk of injury was decreased as well. So should everyone train overhead press? No, I'm not going to just make a blanket statement and say everyone needs to be doing overhead pressing right now. It's based upon the individual. You have to know your body, know where you're weak, know where you're strong. If it's something that you can safely do, if you have that thoracic mobility, if you have that control and stability required, then yes, I believe that you should be including it in your workout program because of its effect on all of you, like I said, all your postural control muscles, all that sort of stuff. Because of the stability that it's going to be creating, you should be including it into your training regimen. But however, like I said, many people lack that control and that mobility because of the upper cross syndrome, because of everything else. So it has to be based upon the individual. If you really want to be doing it, there's tons of videos about how to properly press overhead, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of different articles online with checklists basically of what you should be looking at to see if you can safely perform it. It's up to you. I would say, as with everything, your fitness is your requirement. You have to maintain your own health. It's not up to someone else. But yes. Oh, and then another thing is, if you don't have proper external rotation of the shoulder to be able to properly do it, you're going to be compensating excessively throughout the shoulder and upper thoracic and everything. So make sure that you have that range of motion in the shoulder throughout the scapula, upper thoracic, all that sort of stuff as well. That all being said, there are some risks that are included with overhead pressing. As with every movement in the gym, there's going to be a risk included, okay? So every single movement you can possibly think of, every single exercise you can think of, there's some risk of getting injured. Some of them are more minor than others. And the vast majority of the time, I mean, I've been working out off and on for 8 or 10 years, something like that, and haven't had any injuries in the gym yet. Knock on wood. So some of the risks with overhead press, that, you know, there's the risk of rotator cuff tear, especially of the supraspinatus, labral tears, dislocation, stuff like that. From my research, it looks like those risks are fairly minor. I couldn't find a lot of incidences of people doing overhead pressing and being injured in that manner. I can find a lot more incidences of people swinging a hammer repetitively and tearing their supra that way. So yeah, it's something to keep in mind, and it's another reason why you should be working on your form first and foremost. And then there's also always the risk of dropping the weight on your head. Not pleasant. Keep that in mind as well. So yeah, with all this being said, just keep in mind, you always want to warm up properly. Make sure that you have the mobility and the control for that day, that all the muscles are warmed up and ready to go. You know, make sure you're doing your banded everything to make sure everything's fired up, that there's blood flow to those areas, that they're ready to work. That's the primary thing. If you're going into a heavy overhead lift cold, your risk of injury is much higher. So yeah, make sure that you warm up properly, that your form's good. Like I said, there's lots of form videos online, and honestly, risks can be fairly minimal. I'm not seeing a ton, not an excessive amount of risk with the overhead press. Not like some of the articles and stuff that I've read make it sound. So it's something to keep in mind. If you absolutely hate overhead pressing, or if you've had, you know, labral tears, a slap tear, whatever, something like that, and you just lack that range of motion, yeah, you should probably be doing other movements instead of overhead pressing. If you don't have something like this, if you aren't prone to dislocation or something like that, yeah, I'd say definitely throw it into your training regimen. It's only going to help with especially your postural control. But yeah, so that's about it for today. I just wanted to do this video. Let me know if you have any questions or comments down below. I'm always interested in having a conversation with you. So yeah, just let me know what your thoughts are and share this with anyone who wants to know. Yeah, let me know. Maybe post a link to your heaviest overhead press or something down below as well. But anyways, that's all for today. Again, this is Isaac from Hunger Smash Fitness. Just remember to always improve that 1%.